following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
14:20 in the morning, 14 minutes and 20 seconds worth of sports talk to get you through your daily commute. Hot takes, recaps, best bets, and a little humor to get your day going in the right direction. Sit back, grab your coffee, and let's get into it.
All right, 14:20 in the morning for this January the 8th, 2024. Today's show is brought to you by Righteous Felon Jerky. Use promo code BELLYUP at righteousfelon.com for the best in craft jerky. And get yourself 15% off by using promo code BELLYUP over there at Righteous Felon Jerky. Remember, we are part of the Belly Up Media Network. Go to bellyupsports.com for all their great sports articles and other great podcasts as well, all over there at bellyupsports.com. And thank you for everybody who makes us a part of their day each and every day, whether it be in podcast form over there on the website at the 1420sportsbar.com or on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel today to check out all our videos and everything else we got going on over there. Anyways, Friday night, wild weekend in the sport of the National Hockey League. We'll talk about some NHL today to wrap up the weekend. We probably Dave and I will do our regular show tonight at 7:30 Mountain Standard Time. Check your local listings. A live show tonight. We're going to start doing every Monday night. But anyways, we'll talk NFL tonight as that season wrapped up yesterday, ready for the playoffs. But the National Hockey League had a wild weekend this weekend. It all started on Friday night. Brendan Smith of the New Jersey Devils, clean hit by all accounts. No, it wasn't dirty at all. He caught rookie phenom Connor Bedard with his head down a little bit, looking for the hockey puck, and Bedard broke his jaw, and he's out. Going to miss some time before he'll come back. Be wearing a fish bubble the whole bit, but it was a clean hit by Smith. No, there's no getting around that. Bedard had his head down. We'll get to that half a second, but Nick Foligno, his teammate and one of his mentors, he came to the aid a couple of times for Bedard, and he took on Smith a couple of times. Kind of went after him a little bit, and then Smith ended up on the bottom of the pile, and then later on Smith lined up right with Foligno. They got in a scrap, battled it out as everybody expects. That's the way the National Hockey League is. No matter if it's a clean hit or a dirty hit, you got to protect especially your young superstars, everything like that, and show that you're a teammate. I find it odd, but it's just the way the game is now. It's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's just one of those things. It's just different. Smith lined up with him, and then it turns out maybe that's one of those karma things. Foligno broke his finger in the ensuing fight, and he's going to miss some time as well, and he'll be on the injured reserve list for a little bit. But the hit on Bedard brought up a lot of comments about maybe, and this came from my brother on Saturday morning. He was we were just chatting back and forth over text, and he goes, you know what, maybe this is one of those things that maybe kids should have to play a little bit longer in junior, or maybe play a year in the AHL to get used to the contact hockey, because a lot of kids, the way minor hockey is done, and whatever it's called, academy hockey, whatever you want to call it, high school hockey, it doesn't much matter. But youth hockey has gone away from hitting. They used to be in, I don't even know what's called anymore, U13 and U15. Now it's into U16 where you don't start any contact hockey. And then there's a lot of kids that if they're not playing rep hockey or travel hockey, whatever it might be, there's no contact at all. And so a lot of these kids, they don't learn how to hit. And the kid like Bedard, he probably hasn't had to worry about getting hit for quite some time. He didn't probably play I'll just go like what it used to be in my day. And it was peewee hockey and then into bantam hockey. Now, bantam hockey has some hitting, but only if you play at certain levels. So Bedard only had basically 2 years of playing contact hockey before he went to the Regina Pats of the Western Hockey League, where the hitting's a game's a lot different now than it used to be 20, 30 years ago, as we talk about a lot here at 14:20 in the morning. And then David, I talked about the other night, so now kids, they don't know how to take a hit, get hit. They're not threatened with getting hit. They're not that getting hit's a threat. It's part of the game. Hockey's a physical game, but they don't know how to attack the game anymore. They don't know how to play offense anymore because the threat of getting leveled at the blue line isn't like it used to be. You don't have a Scott Stevens patrolling the blue line like it was with Eric Lindros, and you remember the Paul Kariya hit that basically didn't end Kariya's career, but it definitely put a damper on it. There's no getting around that. And then you see a kid like Bedard, who's only really played contact hockey for 4 years from in bantam, and then into 2 years of junior. And then all of a sudden he's forced for playing against men who some are almost twice his age playing in the National Hockey League. So they've been around for a long time. Or you have guys whose main job is to not worry about the puck as much and not worry about they're not the skilled guys, or go out there they take the body, they use contact and to defend their end of the ice. And that was one of those situations where Bedard got caught with his head down, and he got hit with a clean hit to the jaw, and that's it. Bingo, bango, bongo. Bedard's out for some considerable time. There's some people who are up in arms that that it's too bad to see a kid like that, and it is to see a kid that was putting up some big numbers to 33 points. I think he's got already. He was just named to his first All-Star game, so he won't play in that. It's one of those things, but you just think that maybe my brother Mike was onto something. I know people will say you can't tell a kid he can't go and make money. He can't play professional hockey just because there's an age restriction. Well, I think you kind of can, because if you look at it from the realm of the college football, college basketball, and the NBA into the NFL. Yes, we discussed that a little bit too. That that they do that to keep kids in college and keep the college game growing. But you wouldn't have an 18-year-old quarterback who hasn't played contact football, hasn't played competitive football at that high of a level. You wouldn't put him into an NFL football game, no matter what kind of talent you think he has, because it's a lot different playing against men compared to playing against teenage boys and everything else. And having a guy who's 25, 26, 27 years old facing off against him when you're only 18, it changes the game a lot. You have a different mindset, you have a different frame, everything is a lot different. So having Bedard out against these men who are, that's their job, is to kill or be killed, and they're playing for contracts as well. And so a kid like Bedard, it probably wouldn't hurt him to play against some lesser competition, maybe not in junior, but maybe in the minors, in the AHL, so they can learn the game. They can learn that there are some guys that are bigger, faster, stronger than you, and they don't care that your name is Connor Bedard. They're there for a contract. They're there for their next contract. They're there for a paycheck. They're there to put food on their family's table, compared to junior hockey, where a lot of kids get in awe playing against a kid with Bedard's skill set. And if you put, or any junior player, like a lot of kids, they get wide eyed and everything else. They're like, holy cow, I'm playing against this guy. And so it's a different situation there. They don't know what to expect and what to do. And I don't think. I don't know if there is something you could do, because once a kid is drafted, it is just in the NHLPA and in the NHL's collective bargaining agreement that a kid can come right out of junior and end up playing. I don't think that my brother's too far off saying that maybe a kid who's only played contact hockey for maybe 3 years at that level and is still developing his body. I don't think it's the director of player safety might want to look at that a little bit and say, you know what? Yeah, he's got to learn eventually, but learning the hard way might not be the right way. And having a kid like Bedard, who's a slighter frame, yes, he's highly skilled, obviously, but he's got a slighter frame, that going against a Brendan Smith might not be the best of decisions right in that situation. Was it a freak accident? It wasn't a freak accident because the hit was deliberate. Like that's one thing, 100%. The hit was completely deliberate, and I get it, but the accident was the way the jaw was hit and everything else. That was a complete accident. It's nobody's fault. That's just the contact was there. It was a clean. It wasn't meant to be an elbow to the head or a shoulder to the head or whatever. It was a shoulder that ended up making contact with Bedard's jaw, just the way he was going down. There was no deliberate movement. There was no intent to injure anybody. That was just there's no such thing as an accident, but it was a freak occurrence, I guess, is one way of putting it. And so I don't think that it's anybody's fault, but maybe just the way the system is, and that's just how things are with that situation with Bedard. And I don't think that having a kid maybe learning the ropes a little bit, staying in junior or going on to the AHL for a year or two at whatever contract you want to give him. If he signs a contract and you want to pay him and have something going out, because you're going to see more and more kids. Maybe actually you might see less and less kids this happening to, because the way hockey is now and the contact of hockey isn't the same like it was. But you also have a situation where there are still guys that play with a little bit of grit and a little bit of sandpaper, who don't mind hitting a little bit and do it cleanly, like Smith did the other night. There's a lot more guys who play the game clean. We'll get to a guy who doesn't play clean. I'm glad Bieksa called this guy out the other night on Hockey Night. It was actually quite impressive the way Bieksa called this guy out. But it's one of those situations. I think the NHL really has to look at the safety of these players, because you have more and more kids who don't play, and we talk about it all the time. They don't play at a level of competition that they're going to see in the National Hockey League, and they don't play even in junior hockey. They're jumping into things that they have no idea what they're getting themselves into, because the way the game is marketed to kids and the way the game parents market the game and everything else, and how hitting is just up and down the ice, and it's just a non-factor anymore, and all of a sudden the guy's out there throwing his body around, and people don't know how to react to it. They don't know how to protect themselves. They don't know how to get up and go or avoid those risky situations, because Bedard in general hasn't had to worry about getting leveled at mid ice coming across the blue line. It hasn't been a problem in his career, right from probably when he was playing out in the lower mainland in Vancouver, right on through to junior, and then even watching the World Juniors last year, how he's able to that game-winning goal against the Slovaks, I think it was, when he dipsy doodled and dangled and scored in overtime to push Canada on to the gold medal game. That probably wouldn't happen in the National Hockey League, because you get guys that aren't worried about the puck so much, and they're worried about hitting you and making that contact, make that initial contact, and the like. So it was the injury was a freak occurrence. The intent wasn't there to hurt anybody, but it does happen. You might see that happening more often, just the way the game is played. And it's too bad that it had to be. I mean, you don't wish that kind of an injury on anybody, but it is too bad for the league and for the Chicago Blackhawks that it was Connor Bedard who got the raw end of the deal on that hit, and he'll be out for the foreseeable future. The next time we see him, he'll be wearing a fishbowl, protecting that little mug of his, going out there. Man, he still looks so young in comparison to a lot of those other guys. He just got that young look of his face on his face, and everything else. But it's too bad. But it's not surprising. It's not surprising that Bedard got that one and the way it turned out. A guy that took the brunt of something, as well, as I alluded to earlier, Kevin Bieksa on Hockey Night. He made a point of calling out Nick Cousins of the Florida Panthers, basically calling him the cheapest guy in the National Hockey League. And I got to agree, Cousins has been doing a lot of nefarious things around the ice, dirty hits. Guys are on their knees, ramming their heads into the boards, and dirty and kneeing guys, and just on and on, all kinds of stuff that people don't pay to see in the National Hockey League. And you wonder why a guy of a Cousins skill level, by all accounts, like even Bieksa said, he's a pretty good guy, he's a good team guy, but you wonder why a guy like would behave like that on the ice. Like hockey, we alluded to it the other night. Me and Dave did, talking about there isn't the tap on the blades a lot anymore. There isn't a lot of guys who are going around the ice saying, "Hey man, screw around and find out." And that's not really the saying anymore, but I'm trying to stay away from the swearing here at 14:20 in the morning. Wait till the night show to do that. But you wonder why a guy would react that way and do those kind of things, because hockey, you would think you would play more of the golden rule, I guess you would say, and do unto others as if they were you, and on and on and on it goes, because you wouldn't want someone ramming your head into the boards when you were defenseless on your knees along the ice, and you wouldn't want somebody ramming your head into the ice when you're already down, or someone kneeling on your back, or do whatever it might be, and having a cheap shot of some kind. And you wonder why a guy like Cousins would do that. And you wonder who taught him that, because I think that's something that's taught more than it's inherently just acquired throughout your minor hockey league and your junior hockey or college, wherever Cousins might have played. And you wonder why a guy would end up doing that, and you wonder what how that could stop. Like he talked about Rafi Torres, and Torres was a hell of a hockey player, team guy, run through a wall to win hockey games, but he got suspended. I think once was for 26 games, and then another for 41 games for half a season, because of stuff just like this. And he would take defenseless guys, and he was very dirty, and there was getting all those kind of things. It's like something would just snap in Torres' head a lot of times. Like most of the time, he would just play the game the right way, and then every once in a while, something would pop up into his head, and he would do something completely stupid. And eventually, NHL player safety, they said, you know what, you're not doing that anymore, and you're not playing in this game anymore, and you don't have the right to do that. So now you don't have the right to make any money in something that is your profession. It probably cost Torres $1 million or so over his career, because when you're suspended, you don't get paid, and that's just one thing that it is. So you wonder when Cousins is going to get into his head, maybe I shouldn't be doing this stuff, and maybe being called out by a guy like Bieksa, who played a hard-nosed type of game, who was a gritty player. He didn't mind showing guys the right way to play, but he was never dirty. He was gritty, hard-nosed, and he would go and play the game the right way. and do everything for his teammates when it came to be, and do everything he could do to win a hockey game. And for him to call out this Cousins, I think it was maybe that's the first move to get this crap out of the game. The next move might be having someone tap him on the laces, and he brought it up the other night as well. Maybe it's time to get rid of that instigator penalty, because the guys who hide behind the instigator penalty, that was to protect those kind of guys and the rats of the game and everything else. So and maybe it's time for somebody to step up and take one for the team a little bit and show this guy like a little bit of vigilante warfare. I don't think it's the worst thing for a guy like Cousins, because nobody goes to a game. Nobody goes to a game to see a cheap shot. Yeah, people like seeing fights, and anybody who says that they don't, they're lying. They're absolutely lying. But people like seeing big hits because it's not a natural thing. People love seeing that kind of stuff. People love seeing the fast pace of hockey. People love seeing the hard hits, the hard clean hits. They don't like seeing this kind of crap that goes on. Nobody appreciates that, even when it's not on your team. It's on it's or your team guy is doing that kind of stuff. Nobody likes that kind of stuff. So maybe it's time that somebody stepped up and took care of this Cousins and anybody else who acts that way, and have that vigilante, because the league's not going to take care of it, and the PA is not going to take care of it. Maybe it's time for a player to just take one for the team a little bit, and maybe there'll be a fishbowl full of money that gets this taken care of, and the guy might get a little bonus at the end of the season, a new watch or whatever it might be. I don't want to say a bounty, but you know what I'm saying. Okay, maybe some kind of a way around it, because someone's going to get hurt by what he does. There's no need for that, because there's no such thing as accidents. There is no such thing as an accident on the ice. The stuff that this guy does on a consistent basis, it's all planned. Yes, sometimes a body does turn here and there, and things do go sideways. But if it's always the same guy that's doing it, it's not an accident. And it seems like with this Cousins guy, it's always that kind of a deal. Anyways. A couple more things before we move on to birthdays, everything else. Brought to you by today's show is brought to you by Righteous Felon. Go to righteousfelon.com and use promo code BELLYUP for 15% off the best in craft beef jerky. 15 different flavors out there for all craft jerky lovers or beef jerky lovers. I love a good bag of jerky, but go to righteousfelon.com and check out what they got going on. Anyways, another thing, William Nylander, he got himself the payday that everybody knew he was going to get. He's a ruthless negotiator, whoever him and his agent are. He did it a few years ago when he signed the 4-year deal, I think it was. Now he got an 8-year deal, $92 million, 11.5 for 8 years. It's one of those deals that's going to be a front end loaded with bonuses to be paid out and on for the next couple of years for that all to happen. It's good for him. He's a great hockey player. He's kind of the best player on the Leafs right now. He's not their Leafs best player right now. He's been playing the best for the Leafs. I still think Matthews is still the cream of the crop for that Leafs team, who's on a bit of a roll right now, and they're a good hockey team. And Martin Jones doing the job in net. A few weeks back, I was a little bit worried about what they were doing there, but Jones has been the guy, and I would just keep running with him no matter what. But Nylander got the deal he was always planning on getting. He wasn't going to waver from anywhere from that. The situation you got now is, what do you do with Mitch Marner, whose contract's up at the end of next season, and also with John Tavares? The Marner one is interesting because he's not really liked a whole bunch by the Toronto media. I think there's something to do with his dad. He's not really liked by the fan base in general. I think there's a little bit of disdain. I kind of get it just with what I read about him and his father. And but you just seem like Marner's like such a good player that he kind of takes the brunt of things, and he's a local Toronto kid. But where there's smoke, there's fire. It's one of those things. Everybody expects Marner to maybe do a little bit more. He would never got that big contract anywhere else, so he shouldn't expect to get another one of that size, of that magnitude, I wouldn't think. And it's, you know what, I think this playoff is going to kind of show that the Leafs might, if they don't do something this playoff by winning a couple of rounds, not just one, but they got to win a couple of rounds for Marner to get any kind of payday. I think that Tavares knows he's not getting that kind of a deal. I think he knows he's not getting another 4 or 5 year, $11 million contract. He's probably like more about a $4 or $5 million contract per year over 3 years. And that'll probably be at the end of his career, and he'll stay in Toronto, so they can probably underpay him. He isn't going to go anywhere else. He signed in Toronto for a reason. He left Long Island, as you remember, and he was going to sign in Toronto. So it's another contract that didn't have to get to the heights that it did, but that's just what the Leafs do. And the Leafs have a bit of a problem here. They've hitched their wagons to these guys, Marner, Matthews, Tavares, and Nylander for such a long time. They really can't move away from these guys until maybe after next season and say, okay, well, this hasn't worked. We got to move on. And now that they've basically made Nylander, their centerpiece for a long time to come. With the size of that contract, you got to think that maybe that's just like, okay, if we don't do something this season with Marner and Tavares, it might be time to move on from them. But we'll see how that's all going to play out. They got a good hockey team there. Let's not kid ourselves. I know there's a lot of Leaf haters right across the land, and both the United States and in Canada. But he's a really good player, and you got to think that he's going to do some damage, and he's going to be one of those guys. Nylander's he's going to be a difference maker for some time to come. And is he the centerpiece? I don't know, but he's never really done anything wrong throughout his career. Does he play a little bit? It looks like he's a little bit lazy. Yeah, but that's just who he is and his personality. Those guys from Sweden tend to do that. The only guy that played with a lot of grit from Sweden was Peter Forsberg. The rest of them kind of just they're very methodical, and they play the game hard, but they're not dirty or anything else. So it's really interesting to see how that's all going to play out for the Leafs. And lastly, but not least, if anybody would have said on the 8th day of January that they had the Winnipeg Jets to be in first overall in the National Hockey League, you got to go out and buy a lottery ticket and everything else, because you're a soothsayer, you're a prognosticator, because this time last year there was trouble in Winnipeg. And then right now, before the season started, when you had Blake Wheeler getting bought out, who's been a long-time Winnipeg Jet, and Pierre-Luc Dubois getting traded, you had to think, geez, this team's not going to be very good. And then before the season started, Scheifele and Mark Scheifele and Connor Hellebuck were rumored to be on their way out, but out of nowhere, they both got long-term deals for big dough. And all of a sudden, the Leafs, the Jets have turned around, and they're right now in first place in the National Hockey League. They got 56 points in 39 games, winners of 6 in a row. I think 13 out of 14 they've won. It's funny that their one loss in that entire time is to the San Jose Sharks, who are absolutely atrocious. That's a bad hockey team, and they're on purpose. They're tanking a little bit, but it's one of those things. It happens throughout the league. But yeah, that Jets team is something else. Hellebuck has been playing really well for them. I thought they were going to move away from those two guys because they were both a little bit disheartened in the offseason that they were been there for so long. And I think most Jets fans, because you remember their fan base, they weren't getting big crowds to their games at all. And so it's one of those things that you start winning, people start showing up. It's weird how that works, right? But Hellebuck's been great, Scheifele's been great, and that team is just playing their asses off, win a lot of hockey games. And you just wonder where it's going to go. Are they a cup contender? If Hellebuck can keep playing well, show me a good goal, show you a good coach every time, right? And they have a shot at doing some damage in the Western Conference. And how about those Calgary Flames yesterday, losing to the Bedard-less Chicago Blackhawks? Those are games you have to win. Like, those are games that you look back on if you miss the playoffs and you're out by 2-3 points here or there. You're like, geez, that's a tough one. That's really tough. And then look at the Oilers winning 7 in a row again. They're flying once again. So National Hockey League's full blast here. We'll get into maybe a little more of the East Conference later on in the week. But anyways, that's it for the hockey talk for today. Thank everybody very much for listening to the podcast today. And make sure you guys go to righteousfelon.com and check out all of their great beef jerky products. And here is a little commercial that I produced. So make sure you go over and watch on YouTube, but make sure you go up to righteousfelon.com and save yourself 15% by using promo code BELLYUP at righteousfelon.com. Righteous Felon Craft Jerky is the official jerky of Belly Up Sports. For over a decade, Righteous Felon Craft Jerky has led the American meat snack revolution by concocting delicious, adventurous, U.S.-sourced jerky recipes for uncompromising carnivores across the country. With 15 different flavors to choose from, Righteous Felon has all jerky lovers covered, and by using promo code BELLYUP, you will get 15% off your purchase at righteousfelon.com. Do your taste buds a favor today and rip into a bag of Righteous Felon jerky. There it is, Righteous Felon jerky. Make sure you guys go check that out. I think it's for sale in some Costco's and stuff right in the States as well. So, but get it from righteousfelon.com and save yourself 15% on your purchase there, and they'll ship it right to your door, and you'll get something. Let's get to On This Day, brought to you by SeatGeek.com, the SeatGeek app. Use promo code 1420pod at SeatGeek.com today and save yourself $20 on your first purchase over there at SeatGeek. Let's hear what it is. On this day in 2000, the Tennessee Titans defeated the Buffalo Bills 22-16 in the AFC wildcard game as Kevin Dyson scored on a lateral from the late Frank Wycheck on a play that's become known as a Music City Miracle. Dyson's touchdown came on the ensuing kickoff after Buffalo took a 16-15 lead off the foot of Bills kicker Steve Christie with 16 seconds remaining in the game. The home run throwback played as it was named in the Tennessee playbook was originally meant to be caught by kick returner Derek Eric Mann, but as he was out with an injury, Anthony Dorsett was next up, but he was also out due to cramps. That left Dyson to be the target for Wycheck. Wycheck's pass to Dyson ended up being a 75-yard touchdown play that had to be reviewed for several minutes before replay officials had to rule that the pass was actually lateral. The call was upheld, and the Titans won the game and eventually moved on to the Super Bowl, where they lost 23-16 to the St. Louis Rams. I remember exactly where I was watching that one in a friend's house in Fort McLeod, Alberta, watching that, and I didn't think it was going to be upheld. I thought they were going to overturn that call because it was so close. Remember that Wycheck play in the Music City Miracle all those years ago? It's hard, 24 years ago. Jeez, where's time fly? Unbelievable. But it was a great play, a great moment in football history, actually. And I actually thought that was one of those things that, I know that the Rams had that greatest show on turf and everything else, but that after that play, the Music City Miracle, I thought that maybe the Tennessee Titans were going to go on, because sometimes you have those plays that the momentum takes you on, especially in the playoffs, to another win. Anyways, that's it for today's show. Thank you very much to everybody who's listened, and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel today. Dave and I are back at it tonight to recap. Probably talk about the Montana Grizzlies loss yesterday to South Dakota State, and then we'll talk about the end of the NFL season. We'll have our 3Fs, as always, is live tonight on the Belly Up YouTube channel and our YouTube channel as well. So if you want to check that out, 7:30 Mountain Standard Time, 9:30 Eastern. And then, so that's what we got going on. And thank you very much for listening to our show today. Also, Wednesday, we have Eric Katz, writer for Belly Up Sports. We'll talk about the Yankees and their offseason and how that's going so far and everything else. I find it the Marcus Stroman rumors. He wants to play for the Yankees, and they basically went thanks, but no thanks to see. They didn't. They're not returning his calls. It's poetic justice. I've never been a Stroman guy. Anyways, that's it for 1420 in the morning. Thank you very much for listening. Remember, it doesn't matter where you are; it's who you're with. Have a great day, folks. We'll talk to you tonight.
You just listened to the 1420 Sports Bar Podcast. More beer with sports talk and a whole lot more. We are part of the Belly Up Media Network. Let's get into it.